We're going to solve equations by using the square root property. So in this particular section, we're going to solve each equation by square roots. We're going to write all irrational and complex answers in simplest form, which means you do not round, you do not give decimals, you give simplified fractions, you give simplified radicals, you rationalize any and all denominators from radicals and imaginary units where necessary. So in the first example, what we're going to do is we are going to isolate the quadratic term. So I'm going to add 81 to both sides. Then I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient of d squared. So I end up with 81 over 16. To get rid of the square, we're going to take the square root. The square and the square root cancel, leaves me with d. Now, when I do this, the square root property always involves a plus or minus. So I'm going to put a plus or minus on the right-hand side, and then I'm going to simplify the radical. Well, 81 and 16 are perfect square numbers, so that reduces to 9 over 4. So my two answers for this particular problem are d equals plus minus 9/4. Now, as always, you can go in, plug those in, and check both of those answers into the original equation to verify and validate that your answers are correct. In example number 6, we're going to divide both sides by -6, which gives me -8. I'm going to take the square root of that, but if you notice, I have the square root of -8. So I have to simplify the square root of that negative number into I square roots of 8, and the square root of 8 can be broken down into the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, which gives me plus or minus 2i square roots of 2. Final answer. In example number 7, I'm going to subtract 11, so that gives me 3 over 2x squared equals to 48. Then I'm either going to multiply both sides by 2 over 3 to get rid of the fraction, or I can multiply everything by 2 and then divide by 3. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2, so that gives me 3x squared equals to 96. And then when I divide by 3, I get 32. So when I take the square root to get rid of the x squared, I get x equals 2. The square root of 32 breaks down to 16 and 2, the square root of 16 times 2. And that gives me plus or minus 4 square roots of 2 as a final answer. In the last example, I am going to subtract 10. That gives me -7s squared equals to -9. Then I'm going to divide both sides by -7, so that gives me s squared equals to 9 over 7. At this point, I am going to take the square root of both sides. So I get s equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 9 is 3. I cannot take the square root of 7, which means I will need to rationalize this fraction by multiplying the top and the bottom by the square root of 7 over the square root of 7 to remove the radical from the denominator. And my final answer will be 3 square roots of 7 all over 7. If you have any questions about solving quadratic equations by using the square root property, please contact me and let me know.